As a reminder, if you're on YouTube, go to your settings and make sure restriction mode is off, as it restricts content from content creators and it can definitely hurt content creators in the long run. Also, be sure to check out my shorts channel, Protagonist, if you want to see some of my best shorts on there. So be sure to check it out and make sure you subscribe there. This video has been planned for over a year. I've been waiting for the right time to actually do this, and after finally getting Sparking Zero on my birthday, I can finally make this video happen. I said this many times on the channel, but I am a hardcore Dragon Ball fan. I grew up watching and playing Dragon Ball for over 15 years. I have fond memories of the Budokai and Budokai Tenkaichi games. Same goes for the Raging Blast games. But nowadays, anime games feels more like a cash cow, constantly getting churned out every year just to make a quick buck. And Dragon Ball, unfortunately, falls into that category, having so many games filled to the brim with season passes, DLCs, and microtransactions. But not all of them are bad games though. Dragon Ball FighterZ may have a lot of DLC, but at least it's not as outrageous as Xenoverse 2 and Sparking Zero. But we'll get to those games soon on this tier list. Now, I'm not going to go through every single Dragon Ball game, as that would take too long. I'm only listing the games that I've played, owned, and both. Gacha games will also not be included, so I apologize to the fans of Dokkan Battle, Legends, and Gekishin Squadra. We got the power level of 5 tier, where the shit games belong. Then the Frieza tier, games that I find okay. The semi-perfect tier is where I consider these games to be good. The over 9,000 tier, where games are really great. And then we have the Super Saiyan God tier, a tier of my all-time favorite Dragon Ball games. Also, just a heads up, all of the gameplay from Battle Z to Sparking Zero is recorded by me. The rest are from the YouTuber Hidden. If you're looking to see any good retrospectives on Dragon Ball games, then I recommend her, as she's the best when it comes to delivering Dragon Ball retrospectives. Also, some of the other videos that I've shown in this video will be linked in the description as well. So, link to her channel will be in the top right corner, and links to all the other videos that I show in this video will be in the description below as well. But with all that being said, let's get down to business. I think most of us can agree that Ultimate Tenkaichi is one of the absolute worst DBZ games ever made. The gameplay is unbearable to handle. They put you in two different ranges depending on how far or close you are at your opponent. When you attack, you have to press a button different from your opponent to perform an auto combo. It's essentially a rock, paper, scissors type of thing. If you want to do supers and ultimates, you have to build up your ki instead of just charging up. And you have to make sure you have ki to either block, evade, or intercept an upcoming super attack or ultimate. This game relies too much on ki, and the character roster is terrible as well. No base forms on some of these characters, no adult Gohan, hell, not even Goten, Kid Trunks, or Videl are in this game. How the fuck do you only have 2 GT characters? Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta is missing, they forgot Guldo, they even forgot Boo-Tanks and Fighting Team Trunks. What kind of shit is that? This is easily one of the most dog water character rosters I've ever seen in a Dragon Ball game. The character creation system is a fun touch to the game, but it is extremely limited. No Super Saiyan 2 or 3, no additional hairstyles and costumes, no extra races, and you can't even make a female Saiyan. I appreciate what Hero Mode offers, but it could have been better. The story mode is also the same as Budokai 3 and Tenkaichi 2, which is nothing special. Ultimate Tenkaichi was an ultimate disaster, and I cannot believe it sold more than Raging Blast 2, which is outrageous. So with that being said, let's move on to the Frieza tier. Dragon Ball Z Budokai was a game I had good memories with. While not a great DBZ game, it's still pretty decent. Let's start with the character roster. Since the story mode ends at the Android Saga, we only have over 20 characters to choose from. While not a lot, it's still a fair amount for a PS2 game. The gameplay is fine, but I don't like that you have to combo into a super attack. It's nothing special, but I do love going through the story mode. It is a game that I don't mind replaying. Budokai Tenkaichi, aka Sparking, was the starting point of going into 3D fighters. While a rough start, at least it was decent. The game has 60 characters to choose from, but you can't transform in the game, nor could you do fusion. You have to choose their forms in the character select screen. Gameplay wise, it's decent. Pulling off attacks felt okay, and using supers and ultimates were also fine, but the camera was pretty bad. There were times where the camera was placed badly and lock-ons weren't that impressive. Other than that, it's okay. This was Spike's first time creating a 3D fighting game for the Dragon Ball franchise, so I'm willing to cut it some slack. At first, I thought Xenoverse 1 was fine, but as I replayed it, the game became stale. I still like playing this game though. They took what worked in Ultimate Tenkaichi and improved it tremendously. And that's the character creation. You can choose between 5 different races: Saiyan, Earthling, Majin, Namekian, and Frieza. With the first 3 giving you the options to create a male or female character, you can now create a female Saiyan, Earthling, or Majin. And is it just me, or do the female Majin's boobs appear bigger than the Saiyan and Earthlings? You tell me. Anyways, in Xenoverse 1, you are the main character. Your job is to go back in time to restore history that's being altered by a woman named Toa, the younger sister of Dabura and her creation Mira. With the help of Trunks and new character Supreme Kai of Time, you'll be able to travel back in time to correct the altered timelines. Okay, sounds good. And as far as gameplay goes, it's not that bad. You can perform good combos, use any supers and ultimates you can equip onto your character, and by leveling up your character, you can use attribute points to increase the stats of your character. But if you equip Super Saiyan onto your character, you can just ultimate spam until the cows come home. Add Emperor's Death Beam onto it and congratulations, you're ready to ruin friendships. I should know from experience after playing this online on the Xbox 360. I could go on and on about this game, but I'll sum it up to this main issue. RNG, short for Random Number Generator. Almost everything in this game is RNG, from PQ drops to Dragon Balls to Masters, etc. Meaning you'll have a small chance of getting the stuff that you want. So even if you ultimate finish a mission, there's no guarantee that you'll get the item that you've been wanting. That is annoying. Overall, Xenoverse 1 is fine, but its replayability has dropped extremely low ever since the release of Xenoverse 2. However, if you're somewhat curious or interested in playing Xenoverse 1, play it on the PS5 since the load times were way less than the older gen consoles. So with that being said, let's move on to the semi-perfect tier. Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2, the first ever Dragon Ball Z game I've ever played. And I'll never forget those wonderful times of me playing it with my older cousins. Budokai 2 has double the amount of characters Budokai 1 had, since they've included the Majin Buu saga. However, the way they made the story mode was a hard miss. Instead of going from stage to stage, now we're in this grid where we collect items and run into enemies to fight. I don't remember too much of how the story is structured since I haven't owned the game, but I will say the gameplay is solid. You can perform super moves on the fly, you're able to fuse, and many more. Budokai 2 is a solid game, not one of the best, but it's still a good Dragon Ball game, and it's got a good soundtrack too, I will admit that. Super Dragon Ball Z was one of the first Dragon Ball games I owned. Instead of just giving us a story mode to go through, this game is more of an arcade game rather than a traditional Dragon Ball game. Super Dragon Ball Z only has 18 characters, each with their own arcade mode to go through. And no matter which character you choose, it ends with Cell being defeated once you beat their arcade campaign, despite Majin Buu being in this game. And I think this is the only Dragon Ball game to have adult Chi-Chi as a playable character. Super DBZ plays more like a traditional fighting game, but in 3D environments. A 3D fighting game to say the least, pulling off inputs in order to do ki blasts, special attacks, and transformations. Overall, this is a pretty good game to play. Nothing mind-blowing, but still worth playing, and I think this was like the hybrid for what's to come in early 2018. I also have fond memories of Burst Limit. It isn't as spectacular or anything, but it's still pretty good. The character roster has up to 20 characters to choose from, no characters from the Majin Buu saga unfortunately, and this game plays similar to the Budokai games, but with a few differences. Ki automatically recovers, but you can still charge up, and you can choose any of each character's ultimates, but the main gimmick of Burst Limit is the form of drama pieces. These are little sequences that can be equipped and will activate automatically during the middle of every match. On one hand, they can be pretty cool when in the story mode. On the other hand, you can't choose to turn them off in versus mode. It completely wrecks the pacing of fights during local and online multiplayer. Burst Limits is loads of fun if you can get past the limited character roster and drama pieces. The gameplay and combat is good, the soundtrack is good, and the graphics don't look that bad for a game that came out in 2008, a year before Raging Blast became a thing. Speaking of which, as much as I love playing Raging Blast 2, it doesn't compare to Raging Blast 1. What sets it back is the lack of story mode and the graphics of the game. It doesn't look bad, in fact I say it looks really good, but it doesn't compare to the cel-shaded look in Raging Blast 1. However, there is one advantage it has over the first game, and that's the character roster. Over 90 characters to choose from, transformations included. And they have characters that haven't been playable before, like Naze and Dore from Cooler's Armored Squad, as well as androids 14 and 15. Even Turbo, the younger brother of Vegeta, he was a cool character to play as, and the last character, Hachiyak from the special Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans, which was remastered and added into the game for you to watch. And that's one way to unlock the character, which was an awesome way to get the bulky Tofo. The game controls the same as the first, but the camera has improved a bit. It has a new mechanic called Raging Soul. When you power up to the max, you'll have moments to activate it. Doing this will let you perform longer combos and do more damage. The game doesn't have a story mode, but instead we have Galaxy mode. You choose a character and go through their selected missions. This is where you unlock characters, super attacks, and artwork. Needless to say, this was not as fun as Raging Blast 1's story mode. Raging Blast 2 is a fine game to play, not as amazing as the first game, but it's still playable. This was the only handheld Dragon Ball game I've ever played. Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi Tag Team plays the same as the Tenkaichi games, but with a twist. Instead of having up to 5 characters on your team, it's now a 2v2 type of game. You choose a character and your teammate, and if your teammate is a computer, you can have it either focus on the same enemy, focus on the enemy's teammate, or have it act normally. Tenkaichi Tag Team sports a 70 playable character roster, similar to Raging Blast, but here we do have Ultimate Gohan, Cyberman, Cell Jr., and Dabura. But there's no base form Gotenks or Vegito, no Super Vegeta or Super Trunks, and no base form and Super Saiyan form of Broly. But despite this, it's still a solid character roster. Far better than the Ultimate Tenkaichi's roster, that's for sure. Graphically, it looks good for a PSP game, and the soundtrack is some good stuff as well. Tenkaichi Tag Team is what I would consider as the best handheld Dragon Ball game of all time, and I can see myself replaying this if I ever get the chance. Sparking Zero came out last year, and I do plan on doing a review on the game soon, so I won't go too much into detail here. This game has a remarkable 200 plus character roster, spanning from Dragon Ball Z to GT, Super, Superhero, and now Daima. The gameplay is fine, nothing spectacular or amazing, but it plays well. The number of stages are pretty bare bones, having over 10 stages to choose from. The music isn't good either, in my opinion. Production wise, it gets a pass, but sonically, it's not replayable in my opinion. I do like the looks of the game. It's very colorful and vibrant, and it definitely makes the game pop. But that's about it. Sparking Zero is good, and I don't mind playing it, but it's not comparable to the other games that are higher on this tier list. So let's move on to the over 9,000 tier. I love Budokai 3. It's easily the best in the trilogy. It has a larger character roster as well as improved gameplay, giving both sides a chance of offense and defense when it comes to Dragon Rush and Ultimate attacks. The story mode has you choosing between a set of characters with their own perspectives of the story. You fly around the map in order to progress through the character story. The graphics are the same as Budokai 2, but with a few tweaks added to them. If you want the best experience with the game, get the Budokai HD collection. It doesn't have Budokai 2, but Budokai 1 and 3 are good enough for you. Budokai 1's story mode and Budokai 3's character roster and gameplay. Now I haven't played Tenkaichi 2 as much as 1 and 3, but it's a major improvement from the first game. Tenkaichi 2, aka Sparking Neo, has a larger character roster with over 120 characters. You're now able to have up to 5 characters on your teams. Characters have more than 1 health bar. You can also transform as well as do fusions, and the combat has improved from the first game, as well as the camera. I should also mention that earlier copies of Raging Blast 2 accidentally had the Dragon Ball Z Kai soundtrack, so instead they had to go for Tenkaichi 2 soundtrack. If that doesn't scream mismanaged, I don't know what does. But Tenkaichi 2 has some stellar music to listen to, and the game looks a bit better than Tenkaichi 1. Needless to say, this was a really great game, and I would love to experience it more in the future. Dragon Ball Raging Blast was the second Dragon Ball game I've played, and is one of the best in my opinion. The game has up to 70 characters, including transformations, and it gave us 2 what-if characters, Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta and Super Saiyan 3 Broly. Going through the story mode of the game is a cool experience, but I hated having to redo story missions on hard difficulty just to unlock stars to use to unlock the rest of the story missions. I can understand unlocking missions in the what-if stories, but not the main sagas. Still, Dragon Ball Collection is one of the best story modes ever made. Gameplay and controls are simple, but I don't mind them being simple. You can customize every character using items to increase their health, attack power, etc. These items comes in the form of Tetris, where you have to make sure each item you equip can fit on a grid. I do wish the camera wasn't so bad though. It is so damn bad. Mind you, Tenkaichi 3 came out in 2007 with a much better camera, while Raging Blast 1 came out 2 years later. And when it comes to the soundtrack, oh man, Raging Blast has one of the best Dragon Ball soundtracks I've ever heard. It is so good to listen to. And graphically, it looks amazing. The cell shading does wonders for the character models. I'm not afraid to say that Raging Blast is top 5 for me. One of the best Dragon Ball games I've ever played in my whole life. I don't care what anyone says, Dragon Ball Z Battle of Z is really fun to play and is also top 5 for me. It tries something new in terms of combat and has done it miles better than Ultimate Tenkaichi. Battle of Z focuses on 4-on-4 team-based gameplay. You choose a mission and then you pick a character and your 3 teammates. The first 4 missions are considered as the tutorial, but after that, you're free to pick which character you want to play as you continue through the game. Since the game focuses on team-based gameplay, you can pull off chain attacks and synchronized attacks. You'll also collect cards and items that will help you during the harder missions. Cards can help increase your stats, while items can help you during battle. There are 2 types of in-game currency in the game, but thankfully there are no microtransactions. Dragon Ball points and premium points. For every mission you finish, you earn Dragon Ball points that can be used to buy skill cards and items such as Senzu Beans and Chi-Chi's lunch. Premium points, however, are what you want the most. In the top middle does an energy meter, and by doing chain attacks and synchro attacks, you'll increase that energy meter. At certain points after completing a mission, Goku will call out for your energy to give, and in exchange you receive premium points. You use these to buy rare cards, but the 2 cards that you'll want the most are Porunga's Wish, which will double the amount of premium points you earn, and Lucky Girl, where you'll earn rare cards and items. Speaking of items, you can also buy rare items such as the Fruit of the Tree of Might and Ultimate Jewel, which will allow certain characters like Goku, Super Saiyan 2 Team Gohan, Final Form Frieza, Kid Buu, Majin Vegeta, Legendary Super Saiyan Broly, and more to use their ultimate attacks. Battle of Z sports a 70 playable character roster with forms being separate characters. 3 of those characters are from the Battle of Gods movie, Super Saiyan God Goku, God of Destruction Beerus, and Whis. Despite being in the base game, Super Vegito and Super Saiyan Bardock are DLC characters. And surprisingly, there was cross promotion between Battle of Z and Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 3. If you bought Storm 3 Day 1, you would have gotten Naruto and Goku's Gi, but if you bought Battle of Z Day 1, you would have gotten Super Saiyan Goku in Naruto's Sage Mode outfit. And despite not having local multiplayer, online co-op and multiplayer are a thing, but this game came out over a decade ago, so chances are you're not going to run into many people playing online, which is a shame. But I enjoyed playing Battle of Z ever since it came out. It felt like a hybrid for the Xenoverse games, which made apparent when Xenoverse 1 came out a year after Battle of Z and Xenoverse 2 a year after Xenoverse 1. Speaking of which, despite Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 being almost a decade old and has run its course, I can still say that this is a major improvement to the first entry. Character creation and customization has expanded tremendously, with new hairstyles, outfits, and accessories, more super and ultimate attacks to attain in the game, a new story mode with Tora and Mira now being the main antagonists, more parallel quests to complete, and most importantly, new characters. And this game is bloated with DLC, having up to 19 DLC packs. And no, I'm not counting Supreme Time or the Legacy Patrol DLC, which is just the Xenoverse 1 story mode. And despite the game being sold at $50 when it was launched, Bandai Namco couldn't resist getting greedy by adding microtransactions. Microtransactions in a paid game, cause that sure makes sense. But when you ignore the bullshit monetization, Xenoverse 2 is pretty fun. Combos are a lot better and faster. You can no longer drain ki when transformed. Every character now has a transformation, with the Saiyan OC having the most. Super Saiyan 1, 2, and 3, God, Blue, and Ultra Instinct. You can now have 2 ultimates equipped, and the soundtrack has expanded by adding more music tracks onto it in exchange for some of the older tracks. The graphics and cutscenes have improved heavily, along with more stages to play on. Xenoverse 2 can be seen as a cash cow, and I can wholeheartedly agree on that. But as a game, it's definitely up there as one of the best. And the game is now available on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X. So assuming that you haven't bought the game or any of the DLC on the PS4 or Xbox One, having to get a version with most of the DLC added onto the game for a lower price is an amazing deal and will save you a lot of money. So I'd recommend hopping on that if you're somewhat interested. I don't really care for Xenoverse 2 anymore, however, as it ran its course, and I personally don't want to see a Xenoverse 3 ever, but I do think it's still a great game. Now let's get into the final tier, and that's the Super Saiyan God tier. These are the games I consider the absolute best. Starting it off is Dragon Ball FighterZ, released in early 2018 and was developed by Arc System Works. This is easily my second favorite Dragon Ball game to play, despite not being a pro at it. Remember when I said that Super Dragon Ball Z is a hybrid of what's to come in 2018? This is what Super Dragon Ball Z is a hybrid of. FighterZ is a traditional 2D fighting game with 3D graphics that complements the style of Arc System Works. And it's the one game that brought together players from different scenes in the FGC. Players from Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom, Tekken, Smash Bros, as well as obscure fighting games. FighterZ started with a whole total of 24 characters, with Super Saiyan Blue Goku, Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, and new character Android 21 being unlockable. And there are 19 characters in 3 separate season passes, with Lab Coat 21 being the lone DLC character and it's the final DLC character, at least until we see the next character for 2026. That is a total of 44 characters to choose from. This game also has a unique story mode centered on the new character Android 21, voiced by none other than Hoko Kuwashima, who also voices Cure Sunshine, my favorite character from Hardcase Pretty Cure. I can't really say much on the gameplay since I'm mainly a casual player in the traditional fighters, but I can say that the flashy moves, combos, and the controls are on point. This is definitely a game that I can replay every now and then. FighterZ did so much good in the FGC, being part of EVO's main lineup for over 4 times. It also did extremely well in terms of cash, selling more than 2 million copies within the first week. And now it sits at over 11 million copies worldwide. And just when we thought FighterZ wrapped up, Bandai Namco brought it back with an upcoming DLC character, Super Saiyan 4 Daima Goku from Dragon Ball Daima. What a time to be a Dragon Ball fan. FighterZ will be remembered as one of the greatest Dragon Ball games in history, and I cannot recommend this game enough to those who are interested in fighting games. Okay, I know I'm cheating a bit here since this isn't really a video game, but rather a collaboration with Fortnite, but I couldn't resist adding this to the list. This also gives me an excuse to plug in my supporter creator code. Use code STARTASTIC in the shop as they help support the channel. So in celebration of the Dragon Ball Super superhero movie, Toei collaborated with Epic Games to bring Dragon Ball into Fortnite. And on August 16, 2022, the collaboration began, adding characters such as Goku, Vegeta, Bulma, and Beerus as skins. This will also mark the beginning of event passes, where collaborations will have an event pass that will include unlockable cosmetics to get for free before being added into the item shop. And for Dragon Ball, there was the Power Unleashed event pass, where you were able to earn emoticons, sprays, as well as the charging up and boosting key emotes, the Dragon Ball radar bag bling, and by completing quests, you'll unlock the Shenron glider. The event also had 2 mythics to use, the Nimbus Cloud, which is also a glider sold in the item shop for 800 V-Bucks, and the Kamehameha, which gives you 3 shots to use. This is a busted ass mythic by the way, but it's so fun to use. It also has an island where you're able to watch 4 episodes of Dragon Ball Super, which is cool. However, after the Dragon Ball event, we've gotten 4 more waves of cosmetics. Wave 2 had Gohan and Piccolo from Super Hero, Wave 3 had Goku Black, Wave 4 had Frieza and Cell, and Wave 5 had Trunks, Android 17, and Android 18. Finally, to top it all off, we had another Dragon Ball event. This time, it was in the new mode called Blitz Royale, where matches only last up to 5 minutes. And for 1 week, we were able to use the Kamiyamama. But during that week, we had 2 back-to-back special events. First was Ninja having a new edit style for his icon skin called the Blitz Boss, along with 5 new mythics. And the second was where you could have unlimited Kamehamehas for 1 hour. And this happened twice on that day. I did a whole montage of Dragon Ball Blitz Royale. After this video, you should definitely check it out. I put a lot of work into that montage. Link to the video in the top right corner. There are more things I could mention here, but this video is already long enough, so I'll end this section here. Bringing Dragon Ball into Fortnite was one of the best things to happen, and here's to seeing more Dragon Ball cosmetics and content in the future. I also hope that Dragon Ball gets added into you and your friend one day. If you are a massive Dragon Ball fan, please use my code STARTASTIC in the shop to pick up any of the Dragon Ball cosmetics whenever they come back, or use it for whatever you want to get in the shop. Alright, I've saved the best for last. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3, aka Sparking Meteor. Easily the greatest Dragon Ball game made in history. Tenkaichi 2 was great, but Tenkaichi 3 turns it up to an 11. This game has over 160 characters in the game, up to 23 stages with 8 of them having night and day variants, and a soundtrack that slaps extremely hard. This game's story mode has been cut down tremendously, with the Saiyan Saga only having 3 fights, but the length of the fights makes up for the number of them, since cutscenes happen in the middle of each fight. Tenkaichi 3 also has up to 5 tournaments to choose from in the Dragon World Tour mode. The mechanics and gameplay from Tenkaichi 2 carries over to Tenkaichi 3, and the graphics are the same but with slight enhancements. I love this game so much, if you could tell. I spent hours and hours playing it, whether it be the single player content or playing it with friends and family. This was something Sparking Zero missed the mark on. This series was not meant to be competitive. It was meant to be a fun, casual arena fighting game series, and the first 3 games did that well. Tenkaichi 3 sold over 1 million copies within the first few months, with nearly 4 million copies sold worldwide to this day, more than both Tenkaichi 1 and 2 sales combined. To this day, it is still considered one of, if not the best Dragon Ball game of all time, and not even Sparking Zero can come close to number 1 in terms of fun and enjoyment. Dragon Ball has been a phenomenon in my childhood years, teenage years, and adulthood, and no matter how I feel about a Dragon Ball game, I'll always give the franchise my love and praise for becoming both successful and enjoyable. I know the placements of some of these games on this tier may seem questionable, but this is my tier list and these are my own experiences with these games. Still, I'd like to know where you would place these games, but try to keep it civil, please. Also, rest in peace to Akira Toriyama, as you have been a major inspiration to not only some of the best mangaka out there, but also to everybody around the world who has been major Dragon Ball fans since day one. Now for my next Dragon Ball video, you'll have to wait and see. Until then, this is Star the Protagonist signing out. As always, Goki Genyo, and have a Startastic day, everyone. If you enjoyed today's video, then be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn those notifications on to join the Star Nation. Also, be sure to follow my Twitter, and while you're at it, check out my previous video. Now,